Hola bandidos, ¿cómo estamos? Welcome to Mel's Magic. This is episode 17 of season 3. Owl and I say hello. Estamos a 26 de abril. Crazy how time is flying, no? Vale. Oh my god, every day so many things happening and so much to process always. This is a way for me to really archive the lessons that each day brings in the hope that something may also resonate with you, because at the end of the day we're all connected and the deeply personal becomes universal. Entonces, I pulled a card from my new oracle deck, the Divine Feminine Oracle, and the card I pulled was Perpetua, the Saint of Authenticity. And authenticity is a huge topic. What does it mean to be authentic? It means not wearing a mask, not pretending, not being in denial of our true feelings and desires. And that becomes complicated because, for one, in my own experience, it's difficult sometimes to understand what my true emotions are, what my true feelings are. I've shared with you in a previous episode that I grew up in such a way that I was emotionally illiterate as an adult. I'm just learning how to understand and identify and communicate my emotions. And I feel that's something that's quite widespread because it's not something we're necessarily taught. If you have been taught that in your family context growing up, then you're really lucky. But in my experience, it's not something given. It's something that we learn along the way. And it causes us a lot of confusion because if we as a child are not reflected back or mirrored, if our emotions are not mirrored correctly as a child, then our inner guidance system, our inner compass, our feelings, and our trust in our emotions and feelings becomes muddled. And that's where this mistrust of ourselves starts in childhood, because perhaps there's been a lot of gaslighting. For example, you may, or when I was a kid, I may have needed emotional presence by my parent figure, but the parent figure wasn't able to recognize that need and couldn't see my distress and perhaps ignored it or overlooked it. So I was left with the distress, and I didn't know how to handle it. And then I ended up thinking, well, something must be wrong with me. It sets into course an avalanche, a snowball effect of misguided emotions and confusion, inner confusion, basically. So how do we become authentic? In my experience, it's been a learning curve, and it requires trusting ourselves and trusting also the validity of emotions. So what the emotions reflect, or what they are in response of, might not necessarily be true. They may be based in a subjective filtering of our experience, given our past conditioning, but they're very real nevertheless. So our emotions are always valid, and it's really important that we accept them first and foremost. I never accepted my emotions growing up, and because I couldn't make sense of them, I repressed them, and a lot of damage is done when repressing emotions because they don't just disappear. If they're not processed and released, they accumulate and end up either as depression, literally when you depress emotions, you depress yourself, and they resurface at a later point either through an illness or a breakdown. So once we embark on this journey of healing and understanding ourselves and becoming whole again, i.e., accepting all of our parts, authenticity requires us to first and foremost accept what is there. And that has been also a big, big lesson over the past few months, because I used to just run away from my emotions because I didn't accept them. I either judged them, I told myself, no, I'm not supposed to feel like this. I'm not supposed to feel like this. How crazy is that? And in trying to run away from them, they obviously haunted me. So running away is not, escaping is not the right way to handle things. Denial is not a right way of handling things. Any kind of coping mechanism that tries to get rid of emotions is not the right way of going about it, because we can't get rid of them. We need to accept them, hold them like a mother, allow them to be there, calm them, and then let them go. And actually, they dissolve themselves once we create that space of acceptance. They dissolve themselves because there's no resisting, there's no fighting against them. So they just poof, you know. But it takes courage, because it takes the courage of sitting with the discomfort, in the discomfort of these emotions, because often, you know, we judge our emotions. We only like to be with those emotions that feel good, but anything that stirs up pain or discomfort, we tend to reject that. So to sit in the fire, in the presence of the emotions right here, right now, takes courage, because for some reason our ego thinks it's going to dissolve when we do that, when we're really present. So it prefers to stir up some kind of story from the past to camouflage the pain, but the pain won't go away. And just like a wound that has never been aired, it will just fester and sap part of our prana, our life energy. So authenticity, again, difficult because our ego finds ways of dressing up the pain or the reality of how we really feel. So I've experienced also this very bizarre way of my ego protecting itself, wanting to protect its image of being the good person or seeing itself in the right light. For example, Melanie, the good girl, Melanie who does everything right, Melanie, the intelligent one, the nice one. That's my ego loves that story. And it hates to admit that, no, I can also be greedy, selfish, arrogant, uh, yeah, all of these so-called shadow sides. But we're neither one or the other, we're both. Everyone has the capacity to be both. And the more we accept that in and for ourselves, the less judgmental, I guess, we become of others also, because we accept the flaws we project and see in others in ourselves. And then we can start to have empathy for ourselves and others. I'm not saying any of this is easy, but I've discovered those things in my own experience. And authenticity really requires honesty, really understanding how you're really feeling, not how you would like to feel. Looking at the situation, accepting a situation for what it really is, rather than how you would like it to be. That's why our emotions and our feelings are so important, because they reveal our inner truth. They reveal our boundaries, are essentially what separates us from the other, what defines us, our desires, our feelings, our values. So staying true to our emotions and accepting our true feelings is a sign of integrity and the opposite of fragmentation, which is, I guess, the zeitgeist, no, of our times is this soul loss or soul fragmentation, and the big question of how do we become whole again? How do we live authentically? So authenticity, truthfulness, honesty, acceptance provide wholeness, and it's not an easy path. I told you in my last episode how I'm more able to be in the flow given that I know that I'm being assisted by, higher frequencies, spirit guides, angels, whatever you want to call it. Gives me a sense of inner peace and trusting that wasn't there before. Before, I used to operate from an operating system of fear, which caused chronic anxiety. So I'm much more trusting now in the flow of life. But nevertheless, it's not easy to stay detached. And by detachment, I don't mean removing myself from situations, but allowing things to happen and allowing them to also exit as they occur without grasping, without forcing things. I'm saying all of this because the other card I pulled from the wisdom of the oracle is to the sea. Look how beautiful the imagery is. A little fairy in a little paper boat being adrift in the current of the sea. So being in the flow of life, on the one hand, reduces suffering because suffering is attachment also to events, situations, and people. Going to the sea requires this trust in the flow of life, but it doesn't get rid of the emotions. Let's say a person arrives and is good for us in the moment for a certain experience or lesson or gift or exchange of gift that this person brings. But then the person also exits maybe, and we have an inner knowing that that is the current, that is how it's supposed to go because something else awaits us, but we don't necessarily accept it. Again, the ego likes to attach to things and wants things to be concrete and secure and solidified and certain. So going with the flow really requires this trust and this constant checking in. Are we being authentic? Are we being true to our feelings? Are our feelings still the same? Have they changed from yesterday to today? Are we in the here and now authentically with what is there right here and right now? Or are we grasping, are we holding on to past emotions or feelings that were there, even if just yesterday? Are we yearning for something that was there but is no longer here now? Are we truly in the current? Are we truly going to the sea, allowing ourselves to be carried to the sea? It's difficult stuff. And I feel very much more difficult if this trust in something higher, in the benevolence of the universe, in the knowing that everything that happens to us has a purpose and ultimately carries us to where carries us to our own unfolding that requires constant letting go, allowing and letting go. A kind of unfolding that is impeded by grasping and attachment, unnecessary attachment. Here and now was the other card I pulled from the Wisdom of the Oracle deck. Exactly that. Are we here now? Or are we in the past or wishing for something that's not even here yet? It's difficult, especially if you come from a background like I do, of people pleasing and enmeshment and codependency, where the feelings of someone else determine our own feelings, i.e., el bienestar del otro determina nuestro propio bienestar. We have to separate that and be radically honest with ourselves, that if we are authentic and if we're true to our feelings, and if we express that it's not, we're not letting anyone down, we're just being truthful, and the truthfulness is for the highest, not only our highest good, but the highest good of all involved. When I pull my oracle cards, or I work with tarot, I always make an invocation and say, please guide me in my highest good and the highest good of all involved. And the highest good is not always what we want, but it's what we need. So again, this notion of letting go of the result or the outcome and allowing things to happen as they need to occur, and trusting that it's for our own good takes a lot of trust. Voila. So where do we get that trust from? Something I feel each one of us has to discover for him or herself. Yeah. Here and now, to the sea and authenticity. Those are the 3 cards I wanted to expand on today. Les dejo con esto, ¿vale? Something for you to also reflect upon. And I want to let you know that I'm always open for feedback or comments. I'd really like to improve Mel's magic, and perhaps invite also people in the future to have a kind of dialogue or interview style. And yeah, if you have any suggestions, I'm always open for your feedback, and I value that. Vale? Y con esto, Al and I wish you a beautiful Tuesday. Y I hope that we find more courage to accept our true feelings, to discern our true feelings, to articulate, label our emotions, to see what is at the root of each emotion, because each emotion is like a golden thread that leads to the so-called treasure of, be it an old conditioning that needs to be uncovered, or a core belief that needs to be analyzed and perhaps changed. And feelings are more of to do with intuition. They guide us. They come from our higher self and spirit, whatever you want to call it, God, source. So all of that requires a trust in the process of unfolding, and the trust that in this process we don't necessarily change. It's not that we have to change, we just have to become more of our authentic self. And that is a process. ¿Vale? And our emotions and our feelings are the compass. So let's not deny, repress, or shun them. Let's not judge them, but create a circle of acceptance and inquiry. What are these feelings telling me? Where are they guiding me? What are these emotions telling me about myself? ¿Vale? Les dejo con esto, and if you like my video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more of Mel's Magic. I am Magic Mel. Muchos saludos. Chao. Un beso.